Hello YouTube. Alright, today I have something rather infamous to show you all. Yep, I picked up a Sega 32X. This was the last add-on released for the Sega Genesis to sort of keep it going. Unfortunately, this didn't really do that. Neither did the Sega CD, but this especially just didn't really cut ice for keeping the console alive. The add-on itself was released about a half a year before the Sega Saturn was. So this could have been moderately successful, I think, if the timing was better. Because there are some games on here that are pretty good. There's good arcade ports. There's some side-scrolling shooters. Or not side-scrolling shooters. Horizontal shooters, I'll call them. That are definitely worth picking up. So that's the reason I got it, is because there's certain games on here that are really good that I want to play. It improved upon the Genesis graphics-wise. In some ways. It could do a little bit more, but there were other drawbacks, like the music, for example. I think the FM synthesis of the Genesis by itself is better than the music of the 32X. But that's simply because I like FM synthesis, and that's a bias of mine. But that being said, there are still games that are worth getting this particular add-on for. Now, how this add-on works is you have a Genesis itself. Here's mine. Now what you need to do is, of course, you have your AC adapter, and this takes a model 2103 power adapter, which is the same model as you would use for a Sega Genesis Model 2, so that should be pretty easy to find for one of these. Now there are two other ports on the back of the 32X. You have AV in and AV out. Now AV in comes from the Genesis, so what you need is a special cable that goes from the AV out of the Genesis into the AV in of the 32X. Now, if you have a Model 1 Genesis like I do for my main Genesis console, that's kind of hairy because you need either a cable and an adapter, or you need to get a custom-made cable like this, because the Model 1 Genesis and the 32X both use different connectors. The 32X was designed with the Sega Genesis Model 2 in mind, so they were using mini DIN connectors by that time. Back in the Model 1, they were using larger DIN connectors, the traditional large type like this. And what you need in the case of the Model 1 is a cord that goes from this type of large DIN connector to the mini DIN type of connector like this. There is a size difference. Now this cable I got was custom made by a guy on eBay, and the cable works great. If you're lucky enough to find one of these, definitely grab it. The guy sells them for a lot cheaper than you would find cables with adapters. And not only that, but this cable actually carries the audio as well. I've heard online sometimes that some of these cables do not carry the audio from the Genesis to the 32X when it comes to the Model 1. So you want to watch for that. Now, here's the other thing. The Model 1 Genesis outputs mono audio out of the AV out. So when it goes up to the 32X, you only get one channel, which means you need to make an adapter to adapt that one channel to both left and right. So let's say you have the AV cable here. In my case, the audio only comes out of the red connector. So you would need a cable that converts the red connector into two, so that you have the same mono audio signal going to two speakers. So that's just something to be aware of if you happen to get a cable like this that does carry the audio from the Genesis to the 32X. This is complicated, I know. But what you end up having to do is, here, I'll just show you how to hook it up. This is how the AV thing works. You plug it into your Genesis. It's a little bit difficult to do with one hand, but I can do it. Get in there. You plug that in, then you plug this into the AV in port of your 32X. There you go. You have both of the systems connected together. Now you would think they could do that with the interconnect board that goes into the cartridge slot, but I guess they just didn't have enough pins for it. The other thing you need is an AV cable or an RF switch. Here I have a retrobit cable. That's just a standard AV cable. Nothing special. And you plug it into there, into the 32X. Okay, once you have all the AV stuff hooked up, you have your AV going from your Genesis to your 32X, and the AV out going from your 32X to your TV. This is where all the video will go. When you have this hooked up plus the Sega CD, everything, all the video relays through the 32X out to your TV. So you don't have to worry about hooking up RF from the Genesis or anything like that. Everything will just go straight through the 32X. So, there you have it. Now, this will also allow you to play CD 32X games if you have the Sega CD hooked up, which I do when it's on my desk. So, there you have it. Now, the Sega 32X is compatible with your regular Genesis games, so you can just stick them in there and play them no problem, as if it was just a Genesis, and it'll work. But there's also the 32X's own library of its specific games, such as this copy of Afterburner. And you can just put whatever game you want in there and it will work, which is pretty nice. Now, the deal with Sega CD 32X games is you just put the CD into your Sega CD and leave the 32X connected, and it will use the 32X hardware in combination with the Sega CD. It's kind of convoluted if you ask me. So, I don't know what Sega was thinking. The 32X itself was kind of a bad idea at the time, when the Sega Saturn was so close to being released. Anyway, that's how to hook the beast up. The other thing you're going to want with a Sega 32X is a 6-button controller, because a lot of the games take advantage of the XYZ buttons on this controller. So if you can get it doesn't have to be the official Sega one, but if you can get a 6-button controller, I would highly recommend it, because some of the games use it. Even Afterburner for the 32X uses the 6-button controller, or at least takes advantage of it. For the fighting games on the Genesis, you want a controller like this. And there are quite a few fighting games on the 32X, like Primal Rage and Mortal Kombat. So I'm sure they would take advantage of these buttons. So you're going to want to pick one of these up from somewhere if you can, just so you can play the games a lot more easily. And that is the 32X. I'll go hook it up to the TV and we can take a look at it. Now, when I uploaded the original version of this video, I was under the assumption that the 32X and the Genesis were sort of a hybrid 24-bit system together, where the Genesis is 24-bit and the 32X is 24-bit and the Genesis is 16-bit, because a friend of mine had told me that some guy on Atari Age had told him that. Then when I went to look up the information later, after somebody commented on there, I was baffled because I found nothing whatsoever. So yeah, it's a 32-bit system. Well, 32-bit add-on at least. So that guy didn't have a clue what he was talking about, apparently. I've heard that there's debate about whether it's hybrid or not, but from what I've read online, the specs say there are two 32-bit RISC processors in there. So I'm going to assume that it's probably 32-bit. So for those of you who saw the original version of this video, my bad, I got my information wrong, so I had to correct it so that future viewers weren't misinformed. So, there you have it. This is an absolute mess. I mean, just look at it. I have the Sega CD here, taking up the whole base. I got the Genesis here and the 32X here. All this hooked up together is a complete mess. I mean, literally, it looks like you have, the back of it looks like you're hooking up, IV and heart monitor for a card at the hospital or something. It's just a complete mess of cables. And the cables just do basic stuff, so it's kind of ridiculous if you ask me. But it does work, so there you have it. And I can also use AV now that I have a cable for the 32X, which is really nice. So, okay, so here's a comparison of two games. I have Afterburner 2 for the Sega Genesis. We'll plug that in. Take a look at it. Or plug it in. We'll put it in and take a look at it. So as you can see, Sega Genesis games work completely fine in the 32X. No problems at all. There you go. There's Afterburner 2. This game's a little quiet. Cutscenes like this. See. Now here's gameplay of Afterburner 2 on the Sega Genesis. Normally there's music, but I guess in the demo mode there's not. Now this is one of my favorite versions of Afterburner, because it's a little bit more slow-paced than some of the other ones. So if you're really tired and you want to play Afterburner, you can just stick this version into your Genesis and play it, because it's a little bit slower paced. So if you're tired and slow for the night, you can just play some of this and not feel like you just can't even keep up with it. Now that's the Genesis version. Let's check out the 32X version, which looks like this. It's still Afterburner 2, despite it saying Afterburner on the cartridge there, so let's check it out. It's going to be louder. Sega! You get that Sega logo. It's a little bit more colorful, as you can see. You look at that, you get more like rotations and depth perception, things like that. And this game really shows that off. The other thing you might be able to hear is a high-pitched whine coming out of the speaker. This particular game in the 32X apparently is just famous for doing that. Now here's gameplay on the 32X. As you can see, it's much more fast-paced, much closer to the arcade version. It's a very good port, a very, very good port of the arcade version. So that's the difference the 32X makes. But yeah, that's the difference between the two. You get a little bit more colors, a little bit more texture. It improves the graphics a little bit. Wow, look at that! It's like it's a ship with or a plane with like a moving paper background. And the gameplay in this version is much closer to the arcade. That's what the 32X. That's what you want a 32X for, is for the arcade ports and for some of the very unique games on it. There is a game that I am after. I forget the name of it. I have to look it up. I'll probably stick in the subtitle in the video here. But it's a game where it's a horizontal shooter where you're a hummingbird. It's unique and it looks like a lot of fun, so I'm definitely going to get that. There's that fast-paced gameplay of Afterburner on the 32X. See, it's just insanely fast-paced compared to the Genesis version, which makes it more arcadey, in my opinion. It really is much closer to the arcade version than a lot of other versions are, especially the one on the Master System. That one's not even close. So that's a comparison between basically the same game, Afterburner 2 on the regular Sega Genesis, and Afterburner 2 Complete on the Sega 32X. Games like Afterburner 2 Complete are the reason you want the 32X. This game is very close to the arcade version, as I've mentioned ad nauseum in this video so far, and that's a lot of the reason to get some of the games on here. Games like Afterburner, Space Harrier, and Star Wars Arcade are some pretty good arcade ports for the 32X. There are other ones like Primal Rage and Mortal Kombat, but I haven't played those, so I can't really comment on them. But yes, that is the 32X, folks. It was the last-ditch effort to extend the life of the Genesis, and it was a mess. Literally and figuratively, it was a mess. But some good games ended up coming out of the disastrous situation it put Sega in. So, you know, it's not all bad. So I'll start collecting games for the 32X as well. Pretty cool. So, there you have it, guys. Have a good one, everybody. Ciao.